Hi folks, Puffin here with another Antifa news briefa. It is June 2nd, 2021, and the news story I want to highlight in this edition is a story about Pope Francis expanding laws to protect adults from abuse, sexual abuse by priests and other people in the church. And the way this story was reported, due to a badly worded headline that allowed for some trolls to get in and make comments, it made it sound like, Pope Francis is passing laws to protect adults, but not children. And so all these trolls were making those types of comments online on a YouTube video about it. And I'm glad I looked up the story and found out that that's not true, that it's laws that were passed to protect children that are being expanded, and other things that are being expanded to protect adults and to make it easier, make a better process for adults to report abuse by people in the church. So a good thing from Pope Francis to do. And I like Pope Francis. I like to advocate Pope Francis. But when I was reading the troll side of the story, I was, or when I got that impression, I was upset, and I was like, well, baby steps towards not abusing anyone, it might as well, some steps is better than, it's a start, and baby steps towards not abusing anybody. But of course, it's actually better than I thought it was. Now, I also am glad I read an article. It was a little bit confusing from the New York Times, because they did mention that the laws haven't changed since 1983, and they mentioned something else about Pope Francis changing some other laws. But by the end of the article, they mentioned that another thing, even though most of the stuff regarding abuse victims, helping abuse victims, was all good news. At the end of the article, it mentions that he's also putting into law something about keeping women from becoming priests, which is ridiculous, and you're on the wrong side of history with that one. But, just goes to show you can be right about a lot of things and still be wrong about something else. Or you've got too much power against you. Whereas we've had about 125 years since the Gospel of Mary came out. I don't know when it was made public, but the church has had 125 years to rectify what they found out in the Gospel of Mary, that Mary was appointed to lead the church instead of Peter, who created the Catholic Church. And they've got a lot of apologizing to do, or whatever, a lot of making up to do on that front. But regarding sexual abuse, while they also have a lot of making up to do, they are making progress. So it's good to say, to Pope Francis, good job for making progress. But while I was under the impression that they were just starting progress, I was like, you can't half-step this. That's what the phrase no half-stepping is about. And it reminded me of Joe Biden in a few different ways. And how Joe Biden has said, for instance, that he can't cancel all student loan debt. He can only cancel $10,000 worth. Actually, he can cancel it all. So just as if Pope Francis was only protecting one group of people and not everybody, then you're allowing the abuse of other people to continue. Thankfully, that's not the case. But the things that Joe Biden is doing right now, while some of them are good, or some of them are in the direction of good, if they're not good enough, or if you don't do more, if you don't turn around on some things, then it's going to be a problem, because this is the time to step boldly into the future. We've had some bold steps into fascism under Trump. We need to step boldly into the other direction, not take baby steps, and not be half-stepping in that direction. So Biden can cancel student loan debt. He's bragged about his quiet diplomacy to help stop Netanyahu terrorizing Gaza. But you don't need quiet diplomacy. When you're the one writing the check for it, you can just tell him to stop. You can be, loud and brazen about it, and you don't have to fear any type of backlash. Like, no, he needs to be able to terrorize people. That's not true. It's like being the Pope. So, when you're the Pope, if, you ask yourself the question, well, who am I, the Pope? The answer is yes, you're the Pope. Or if somebody else says, who made you the Pope of Beantown? Or who made you the Pope of Tortuga Cove? Or who made you the Pope of Dodge City? Then you're like, the Catholic Church made you the Pope of all those things. And the Catholic Church made you the Pope of everywhere. So The Pope is the Pope, and while it's good that you made progress, and it's too bad that you had opposition to progress you've made in this and other fronts, you're still the Pope. You can make it happen. And Biden is largely in that situation too. You can make things happen by being the president and being a strong president and having the strong force of conviction and truth on your side. Because unfortunately, you're in a system that has been corrupted and isn't completely true, isn't true to its own ideals, the espoused ideals. Just be true to those ideals. Be true to voting and democracy and people's rights, freedom of the press, freedom of speech. Be true to opposing censorship in these ways that you don't even understand they're going on. Like I've had a shadow ban on Facebook that has extended to Joe Biden posts. If you look up one Joe Biden Act Blue mask proposal back during the campaign days, that because I commented on his post, nobody else can see it. There's all this severe shadow ban and like relegation of certain voices to certain parts of the internet where other people can't see it. That, like I said, my comments made it extend to a Joe Biden post. But they don't care about that, or they're not aware of that, or they don't understand how that works. Or, they're part of it. If they're not stopping it, once they do understand about it, then they're part of it. Just like once you have all these terrorists storm your Capitol, if you don't stop them and round them up and charge them or whatever, and break up the network, and including the leader, Trump, who started it, who made it happen, then you're part of it. You're encouraging it. You're allowing it, and that's supporting terrorism at this point. So you got to choose sides. You got to side against the fascists and against the Trumpers. And in the case of Joe Biden, given this military aid to Netanyahu when he's been terrorizing Gaza is supporting a terrorist. Like, you can just cut that off. You don't have to actually even cut it off, but you can at least say that you'll cut it off. Say, we're not going to pay for that. We're not going to give you that $735 million, as Bernie did suggest to his credit. But he's also head of the budget committee. So can't you do a little bit more, Bernie, to say, no, we're not going to be responsible for supporting a terrorist action in a terrorist state, or at least a leader who's acting in a terrorist way to preserve his own illegitimate power. And we're dealing with that with Trump. He's got terrorists amongst his supporters running around threatening the population because I guess they want people to be afraid that if you prosecute or arrest Trump for the crimes that he committed, or crimes that they're not even charging him with yet, but they should, like genocide, like trying to tell people not to stop the virus, which I think will be called the Trump virus. They're afraid if they do something about it, his reactionaries are going to react. We'll round them up, or stop them in advance, stop them in their tracks. Like, make it a military operation if you have to, because you have military authorization against terrorists, and that's what they are and what they're acting like. So stop the terrorism. So Biden do that in America. Biden do that in Israel. Like, let Netanyahu know, no, you don't get this anymore. You don't have our support if you're going to be a terrorist, because that's supporting terrorism. Like, you have to not be a terrorist to get our support. And you can say that out loud. You don't have to do that quietly. So that's why I'm trying to sell these people. Like, you can't baby step democracy or free. You can't say, well, it's okay, you bombed one news building. That's not freedom of the press. That's not freedom of speech. That's not supporting freedom of speech. You have to be strong against that, even among your allies or your puppets or whatever they are. And when we were a puppet of Putin, when the USA was a puppet government of Vladimir Putin and the KGB under Donald Trump, it's not really right to have puppet governments in democracies. It's better to have democracy in democracies and have the people choose who their leaders are, and try to have the people actually be informed so they can choose the best leaders. That's the key to democracy. So let's pursue that. One thing that can help inform you and that can let you know about betraying bad ideas that you've been caught up in, like Joe Biden's unfortunately still caught up in some bad ideas that he needs to betray. And all the Trump stuff was a bad idea that they all need to betray. But we need to, as a nation, betray that direction of taking things. And there's a great new book out here somewhere. Let's see. All right, here it is. Art of Betrayal by God. So if you can read that, The Art of Betrayal by God, get a copy of that. It's got a lot of stuff about the Black Lives Matter movement, at least the modern uh, uh, beginnings of it from last year, the reawakening of it last year, starting with the George Floyd protests, and just about betraying Trumpism and betraying fascism. So I hope you'll enjoy that. It's got a little bit about Judas in it, but my newest book coming out soon is The Book of Judas. And it's about how, hey, you had 125 years to correct your stance on women and let women be priests. Good thing you're starting to root out some of the abuse and taking some type of responsible action for that. But this is why the Christian churches get replaced, as Jesus told Judas in the Gospel of Judas that they would be. You can read the Gospel of Judas already online. But my book explaining it will be coming out soon, the Book of Judas. And that's what it's all about, is that you got to betray a bad belief system. Well, this one's about betraying a bad belief system. But Jesus' secret message to Judas is all of these churches that have gone wrong or have a false foundation will be replaced. And they'll be replaced by one new church that will not be hostile towards other religions, but will be in line with, like on par with other religions in a communal spirituality that we foster around the world. So it's going to be exciting, and it's going to end war. It's going to create world peace, and we all have a part in it. So thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing, and see you soon. And yeah, let's stop the war. Let's stop baby stepping. Let's make some strong steps to stop it, and cut out ties to bad people and bad systems and bad beliefs. Thanks. Talk to you soon.